Hello, my name is Alan Silito. I was born on March 4th, 1928 in Nottingham, England, and I was a writer among the angry young men. I started working in the factories at 14 while my mother was a prostitute and joined the Air Force in 1946, attempting to fulfill my lifelong dream of becoming a pilot. Unfortunately, I only served as a radio operator, and upon my return to England was diagnosed with tuberculosis. I lived in France and Spain from 1952 to 1958 and was inspired to write The LongDistance Runner. In each of the stories, there are the recurring character types and motifs of a lower middle class person and a figure of authority. There is also the repeating feeling of emptiness. Throughout, the lower middle class characters are unhappy, usually because they feel empty and lifeless. The loss in their life tends to be related to friends, family, money, and/or a sense of purpose. Examples are seen in the following stories. The first story, The Loneliness of the Long-Distance Runner, tells the tale of a boy who, after having stolen money from a bakery, is put in the Borstal Correctional Facility where he is put on a long-distance running regimen. The governor of Borstal forces him to run in races so he can win the All-England Cup for long-distance running. Smith, the runner, decides that he does not want to be the governor's chess piece and decides to ruin it for him by refusing to cross the finish line, even though it will mean 6 months of hard labor. In the end, Smith succeeds in proving his independence, but at the cost of a bad-tempered overlord. Smith, the long-distance runner, goes running to separate himself from his problems and reflect on his life. To him, it's a treat being a long-distance runner, out in the world by yourself, with not a soul to make you bad-tempered or tell you what to do or that there's a shop to break and enter a bit back from the next street. Smith enjoys running, but when the governor forces him to participate in races for the enjoyment of others, the activity becomes like another job the working class has to do for the state or elite. The symbol of running is analogous to the desire to retain one's independence in a world of post-war emptiness and depression in which people only lived to work and did nothing of any enjoyment. Cunning is a way to prove oneself, and Smith does that, even against the wit and the will of the officer, old Hitler face. Uncle Ernest, a man who has participated in the war, is not yet accustomed to loneliness in the beginning of his story. Like other characters in his plays, he tries to find ways to fill the gap in his life and find more joy. He tries to befriend two girls simply because they could provide him with company. Even though Uncle Ernest has a non-pedophilic relationship with the girls, police officers demand that he stop seeing them because of how perverted the situation seems.
Sir, I'd like you to never see those girls again.
Like the loneliness of the long-distance runner, the figure of authority in Uncle Ernest also represents oppression on the lower middle class. On Saturday Afternoon is the story of a boy who comes upon a man who is about to commit suicide. After learning this, he agrees to assist him. The rope in the short story On Saturday Afternoon is a metaphor for how people felt at the time, dark and empty. The rope is used to end the tragic life of a man who lost everything in the post-war years, and there was no other alternative to suicide, and the dark boy, a neighbor, understands this because he grew up in emptiness. Although his attempt to hang himself fails, a police officer comes and arrests him for trying to take his own life, since it is the property of the state. During his detainment, he jumps out of a 6-story window and fulfills his wish to die. All characters from the lower middle class can get by with their acceptable conditions, but inside they feel unsatisfied by society. Matters become worse when a figure of authority imposes rules onto them to keep them from attaining happiness from the activities they enjoy. In the end, the lower class characters feel even more awful than before because they were given the chance to feel more fulfilled, but it was taken away by the state and social system. In my story, The Loneliness of the Long-Distance Runner has greatly influenced contemporary society. On January 9, 2009, impeached Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich referred to the story. Let me simply say, I feel like the old Alan Silito short story, The Loneliness of the Long-Distance Runner, and that's what this is, by the way, a long-distance run. I am one of the angry young men. My story was a statement on the post-World War II environment from the perspective of the lower middle class. Specifically, it was an expression against societal norms in England during the period. It was a complaint, but did not originally gain that much attention. However, today it is very relatable and many readers connect with it.